Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has dismissed U.S. President Donald Trump's much-anticipated Middle East peace plan. He referred to it as nonsense while vowing to resist it. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called the plan a historic breakthrough. I want to get some reaction now, and we invited the deputy head of the Israeli mission to South Africa, Ayellet Black. Deputy Ambassador, thank you very much indeed for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Look, we're trying to canvass as much reaction to this proposed peace plan as put forward by the U.S. President Donald Trump of the United States as whole. We spoke to the Palestinian side yesterday. We want to give you a right to get your thoughts on it. What is it?
It's a good plan. It's a good plan for peace. When we're looking at this plan, we're looking at it as a great opportunity, an opportunity to start negotiations. Who, like South Africa, knows that in order to solve a complicated conflict, you need two sides that come together and speak to one another, and that there also needs to be compromises and sacrifices. So when we're looking at just the last 20 years or so, I'm just going to go back to the year 2000, we see three different American administrations. We have Bush, we have Obama, and we have Trump. We're looking at the Israeli side. We have Prime Minister Sharon, Prime Minister Olmert, Prime Minister Netanyahu. And everybody is coming up with innovative solutions and peace plans that have been offered. And on the other hand, we see one leader, Mahmoud Abbas, that has zero initiative and just a lot of no's. A serial refusal to come to the table and start negotiations. And this is what we're seeing here now as well.
You said something very interesting, Deputy Ambassador. You said you need two sides to come to successful peace plan. This peace plan just had one side. You didn't have the Palestinians at the negotiating table. How can it be successful if you don't have the buy-in from the other side?
The negotiation process hasn't started yet. This plan has been a long time coming. It's 3 years in the works.
But in the plan, in the actual, when you comprise this plan, how can you leave out the other side?
So this plan has actually come forward and brought forward several times, and we're seeing throughout this plan that there's a constant disengagement from the Palestinian side to come and take part and see this as an opportunity, a real opportunity to start negotiations. When we're looking at what the Palestinians can gain from this peace plan as a base for negotiations, we're looking at them receiving an independent state. This is their right to determination fulfilled. We're looking at a capital in East Jerusalem, where the United States has said they would build an embassy. We're looking at a complete assurance from the Israeli side that there will be a complete sticking to the status quo while this is going to be negotiating for the next 4 years. And we're looking at the incredible benefit of economic growth, which, by the way, the Palestinian economy has taken many great steps forward recently. And actually the UN index places the quality of life for the Palestinian people similar to that of South Africa.
The Palestinian people will argue, and I've heard this, they saying this, well, it was initially billed as the deal of the century. Some are saying it's the slap of the century. When you don't have the buy-in from the other side, from the Palestinians, is this plan dead on arrival?
So we're hoping not. Israel has always been a nation that has been looking for peace, and we have a proven track record of this. We have long-lasting peace with Egypt. We have long-lasting peace with Jordan, and which each point Israel realized that sacrifices need to be made, and they were made. And when two sides want peace, we reach it. Something that South Africa, that I think is an incredible element of this, is that South Africa, from your rich experience, you know that a true peace requires lots of courage. Imagine what would have happened if here in South Africa there was one side that was constantly refusing, consistently, every single peace offer. I just listed ones from the last 20 years, but if there was just an element of acceptance. In 1947, we're already talking, there was a partition plan. We accepted, and they unfortunately did not. Imagine what
kind of... Do you think Palestinians don't want peace? Is that what you're saying?
When I'm looking at the constant refusal for peace, I can only imagine, and this is from my point, I can't speak for them, that the root of this issue is their inability to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. We see this constantly circling back to that. once there is this recognition, there's an ability to have a true peace with two thriving states living side by side. And that is what we're hoping for. On the way to the interview today, I dropped off my two young children at school, and I was looking at them and I felt the time ticking. What kind of future do we want to build? And a future where we have this base, and it's a base to start negotiations. The maps are ambiguous. It's a starting off point for negotiations, and it's a long road. But we need to start. We need to come together to the starting line and move forward towards a peaceful solution.
One of the key issues is the annexation issues. There's an upcoming cabinet meeting, I understand. Will, from what the information you have, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu bring up the annexation at this meeting, annexation of the Jordan Valley and the settlements?
When we're looking at the plan from an Israeli perspective, we're seeing that there's actually a widespread acceptance from the two largest parties that are currently in a democratic election. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at a government that would like to come together in order to see the best way forward to move towards these negotiations.
What do you make of the timing of such a peace plan? I've heard critics saying that this is an attempt by the White House to get Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu re-elected. You're coming up to an election soon, and it comes at a time where Mr. Netanyahu has just been formally indicted with regards to corruption charges.
So when I look at the timing, I actually look at the specifics of the plan. We're seeing a plan that is actually very similar to a plan that was brought forward by our late Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who was a great visionary for peace. And this was 25 years ago. 25 years ago, and we're back here again with a very similar plan. And we're saying, why wait another 25 years?
So you reckon this has nothing to do with the upcoming elections?
I reckon that any opportunity that will bring about a start for negotiations for peace is exactly what Israel has been striving to do since our creation and even before that, and that is what we're focusing on.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's main rival, Benny Gantz, also commenting with regards to this peace plan. What do you make of the optics of both Mr. Netanyahu and Mr. Gantz talking to Trump and trying to find a way forward with regards to this?
I think this shows how committed Israel is. That when we have the two largest parties circling around this plan, they've done already surveys of public opinion on this, and there's so much overwhelming support from the Israeli element that this is an incredible opportunity. And it's not just Israel. When we're looking at the acceptance and the responses from around the world, we're seeing European countries, we're seeing the EU, we're seeing Great Britain, we're seeing the BRIC countries, we're seeing Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Bahrain, Oman, Emirates, Qatar. Everybody understands that this is an excellent opportunity to create two thriving states side by side. And we're only seeing a refusal from the Palestinian element, and we hope that the only way forward from here is through negotiations. This is something that South Africa taught the world. Yeah. So this is what we need to work towards and what we're hoping will happen.
Reportedly, Mr. Gantz says he promises to bring this proposal, this peace plan, to the Israeli parliament for a vote. What's that process like?
So we're not sure how the process will look, but through our democratic elections, we're now nearing another election. As we are a democratic process, I hope that from the Palestinian element as well, as I said, Mahmoud Abbas has been in office for 16 years, just about completing, out of a 5-year mandate. So it's something that within our democratic process, we'll be able to push forward.
What legal force a Knesset vote will have on this plan?
I'm not sure I perfectly understand the question, but but from an Israeli government point of view, and as I said, with our track record up until now, the Israeli government has always been able to put the various and very difficult decisions on the table and bring about a democratic vote in order to move forward.
Well, I guess what I'm asking you is in terms of, can the Israeli parliament change anything in terms of moving forward with regards to this plan?
So this plan, as I said, is a base for negotiations. So we need that negotiations. Israel has already tried when we realized that there wasn't a partner for peace, and Israel is constantly thriving and striving for this peace. We tried, for example, in 2005, the disengagement from the Gaza Strip. This was something that we understood that if there's no partner for peace, let's try and already bring about the difficult sacrifices that we'll need to do in order to do that. And Israel did do that. And unfortunately, the response, because of the lack of negotiations, the response was tens of thousands of rockets towards the Israeli territories by Hamas. So we're looking for this negotiation. We can't do it alone. We can't make peace with an empty chair. It doesn't work that way. We need this negotiation.
What do you make of Jared Kushner, the senior White House advisor? Is he an honest broker in this regard?
So I'm not speaking for, obviously this is an American plan, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the United States. But when we're looking at this plan, it has been a long time coming. We're talking about 3 years of conversations and attempts that have created this plan, and it is a good plan and a good base to start negotiations.
The United Nations saying that it remained committed to a two-state solution. Do you think this plan talks to a two-state solution? Because critics are arguing it's very nominal.
So this is exactly the plan that will bring about a two-state solution. It's actually incredibly innovative because what it wants to do is recognize the reality on the ground, make sure that no one will have to leave their home in order for this plan to exist. And when you have a peace plan that comes from a real solid effort from both sides, then we can make the map work, and that's exactly what the negotiations are aiming to do.
Do you foresee this plan heading to the courts? Would this plan be appealed in the High Court, for instance?
Right now, what we're looking for this plan is to start the negotiations. Without the ability to talk to one another, without the ability to make the necessary compromises that need to be made in order to take this truly brave step that is necessary in order to bring about peace, I can only sit here and carry on imagining what kind of thriving state would have been alongside us if there was just acceptance in 1947, in the last 20 years, whenever it would be. We had so many opportunities, and we don't want to miss another one.
So paint the picture for us, Deputy Ambassador. When you say it's time now to start the negotiations, taking forward this plan, how do you plan to do that with the Palestinians?
So we can carry on hoping. As I said, there's widespread.
Is hope enough?
There is widespread acceptance from the world. We're looking even at the Middle East. The Middle East is saying, that's it, we need to start these negotiations. How can we bring about a better future for both Israelis and Palestinians? And Israel supports, and that's part of the cooperation that already exists in order to make sure that the Palestinians have an opportunity for the self-determination, for a better life, be it economically, etc., and to have the ability to move forward.
But many would argue, Deputy Ambassador, that is that really a practical solution moving forward? I mean, when you're starting off with the other side not willing to engage in terms of this plan, where does that leave it? Is it back to square one?
So you're asking the side that's sitting and waiting at the table. How do we bring about a situation where there's understanding that the time is running and it carries on running? How do we do that? So we have this incredible form of the international community that's coming and saying that this is a positive response. Let's start negotiations. It is that element of simplicity. And unfortunately, when we see this serial refusing again and again and again, Israel is always jumping up at any opportunity for peace, because that is what we've always done, and we've always done it successfully when two sides wanted it.
Reportedly, critics are saying that Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, got everything he wanted, basically, in this plan. So it's easy for him to start negotiating. But what about the other side?
When we made in the previous negotiations that we had made incredibly generous efforts. And as I said, this plan is incredibly similar to a plan that was already suggested 25 years ago by our late Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. So we have the elements. We know what the reality is on the ground, and Israel knows the compromises that it needs to make, and we know also what the Palestinians will be achieving from coming to this.
You know, when you look at this plan and you see that Palestinians will be basically relegated to the small, isolated enclaves, how is that even, a plan going forward that the Palestinians will agree to?
The plan as it is, and as I said, this map is a starting off point. There's a lot of conversation that needs to be had, and that's why the negotiations are so important. But the map, as it is now, provides the opportunity for any Palestinian to drive from Cairo to Amman. And that is part of the element, and the structure of it is actually what makes it so innovative, because there are humans involved here. This is not a line on the map. This is people's homes, and this plan actually allows for people to maintain their homes while having a bridge to be able to create these side by side. And when you have two nations living side by side in peace, so many solutions can be brought forward.
According to this plan, from your understanding, will the 6 million or so Palestinian refugees be able to return home?
So regarding that question, Israel is the one Jewish state in the world, and it is critical to Israel to maintain the one Jewish state that we have. So when we're looking at the different elements of this plan is seeking to find a solution that will be outside of the borders of Israel.
Look, it's a difficult time, I guess, in order to negotiate with a party that is saying that this plan could be dead on arrival because they're not getting what they want. But I guess the time will tell whether you can take this forward. What is the next step? What happens next week? What happens in the next month? What practical steps will be taken?
So from a practical position, we need to see what will happen, because as I said, we are at the table. We're at the table and we are waiting, and we have been waiting. Even since before the creation of the State of Israel. As I said, there was an opportunity already in 1947. And so we are there, and that's how we'll carry on being.
Deputy Ambassador, thank you very much indeed for coming through and getting your take on this. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.